Welcome back. Today I'm continuing with the Ezekiel chapter, book of Ezekiel. I'm continuing in chapter 6, verse 1. And the way it's titled in my Bible program, it says, Judgment Against Idolatry. Ezekiel 6:1. Yahweh's word came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face toward the mountains of Israel and prophesy to them. And say, You mountains of Israel, hear the word of Adonai Yahweh. Thus says Adonai Yahweh to the mountains and to the hills, to the watercourses and to the valleys. Behold, I, even I, will bring a sword on you, and I will destroy your high places. One of the things about Ezekiel, also Jeremiah in this time, is Israel's captivity. Okay? He's now laying out some of the more aspects of what's been done wrong and what's still occurring is wrong. In Gill's commentary, these are addressed because idols were worshipped here, as upon the mountains and hills. So by rivers of water, and also in valleys, as in the valley of Hinnom, which is there at the southern part of the old city, idols were worshipped upon mountains and hills because they thought themselves nearer to heaven, by rivers because of purity, and in valleys because shady and obscure and had something solemn and venerable about them. You know, look, it's how people put ideas across. They're not really there. It's how they justify why they do something, because, we're worshiping, we believe in Yahweh. We're going to go out in the woods and we're going to worship the creation.
Yeah, it's holy.
So, it's holy.
It's holy.
Ezekiel 6:4, your altars will become desolate, and your incense altars will be broken. I will cast down your slain men before your idols. Actually, when it says here, before your idols, Gil says, dunghill idols. Think about that, dunghill idols. For the word used has the significance of dung. See, that's some things, I guess you could say, about Hebrew. If you don't understand some of the, I guess you'd say, the inner workings of the words. Because it doesn't take much to change the meaning of a word. A letter in front or a letter in back can change the whole meaning of the word. It's in the general meaning of the word, but it changes and gives it another significance. It's like we use the word cool. Well, it's cool. I'm standing here in front of this fan. It's cool. Okay? But we also use it in terms of saying something you're doing or something you're wearing is cool. So you have to understand the difference between cool and cool. And then you come into this. With Hebrew, it's the same way. You have a lot of sections in there that you run into things like that. Ezekiel 6:5. I will lay the dead bodies of the children of Israel before their idols. I will scatter your bones around your idols. Remember what happened back in Josiah's time, King Josiah, 2 Kings 23:14. He broke in pieces the pillars, cut down the Asherah poles, and filled their places with men's bones. It was something he was doing, trying to correct all the damage that his father had done in leading Israel away from Yahweh. Ezekiel 6:6. In all your dwelling places, the cities will be laid waste, and the high places will be desolate, that your altars may be laid waste and made desolate, and your idols may be broken and cease, and your incense altars may be cut down, and your works may be abolished. Going back to Jeremiah 2:28. But where are your gods that you have made for yourselves? Let them arise, if they can save you in the time of your trouble. For you have as many gods as you have towns, O Judah. People tend to want to look at Israel as being the most sacred place in this time period that they're talking about. But why did Yahweh punish them? It wasn't they weren't sacred, just like what Johannes was talking about in the study. Ezekiel 6:7, the slain will fall among you, and you will know that I am Yahweh. He said, I'm going to prove it to you. It's going to be me. It ain't going to be Satan. It ain't going to be Hasatan. It ain't going to be the adversary. It's going to be me. I want you to know it's me. And yet, verse 8, I will leave a remnant, in that you will have some that escape the sword among the nations when you are scattered through the countries. Ezekiel 5:12 says, a third part you shall burn in the fire in the middle of the city when the days of the siege are fulfilled. You shall take a third part and strike with the sword around it. A third part you shall scatter to the wind, and I will draw out a sword after them. Well, a third part of the people died in the siege. And then a third part with sword, and a third part you scattered to the wind across the nations. The northern 10 tribes, when they went into captivity, never came back, really. Some of them did, but the majority never came back. They wound up scattered throughout the area of what we call Asia today, Turkey, all through there, Iraq, Iran. They moved up into the Caucasus Mountains. They moved up into Russia. They moved over into Eastern Europe and the countries there with Poland and so on. They scattered quite a bit, but they never came back to Israel. Ezekiel 6:9. Those of you that escape will remember me among the nations where they are carried captive, how I have been broken with their lewd heart, which has departed from me, and with their eyes which play the prostitute after their idols. Then they will loathe themselves in their own sight for the evils which they have committed in all their abominations. The Vulgate Latin version, I have broken their whorish heart by afflictive provinces, humbled them and brought them to repentance. Because, it's like everything. Once Yahweh lowers the boom, all of a sudden everybody's really repenting, wanting to repent, wanting to be, not have to go through everything that he's already told them they're going to go through. And he says he's going to do it. And one thing is when Yahweh says he's going to do something, it's done. There is no backing out. Right. It's done. It's going to happen. Ezekiel 6:10, they will know that I am Yahweh. I have not said in vain that I would do this evil to them. Means my word is true. Verse 11, thus says the Adonai Yahweh, strike with your hand and stamp with your foot and say, alas, because of all the evil abominations of the house of Israel, for they will fall by the sword, by famine, and by pestilence. Well, basically, when you talk about fall by the sword, we're talking about war. In one form or another, it's war. I thought it interesting on one of the programs I was listening to this past week. The person was talking about in all the wars that have taken place basically in the last century and a half, who is the one whose children died in the battles? Because he was talking about how little, even today when they talk about this thing with the Ukraine, eventually, if the government has anything to do with it, we're going to be in that war. We're going to have men and women dying in that war. Because that's what they want. Our men and women died in Korea. Our men and women died in Vietnam. Our men and women died in Iraq. Our men and women died in Afghanistan. You just go down the list. Europe sends very few, but they always want to, we want this, we want that. But anyway, in Jeremiah 31:19, surely after that I was turned, I repented, After that, I was instructed. I struck my thigh, talking about the same way as he's talking about here, about stamping your foot and striking your hand. I was ashamed, yes, even confounded, because I bore the reproach of my youth. Going back to Ezekiel 6:12. He who is far off will die of the pestilence. It says afar off. You look at what we're going through right now. It's worldwide, the pestilence. And there's a new one, monkeypox. It's not as deadly. In fact, in order for you to get it, you actually have to come in physical contact with someone who is broken out in monkeypox. It doesn't go through the air. You don't breathe it in, but you have to have direct contact. And unfortunately, as more people want to point out, it right now is more involved in the homosexual community than it is in any other part of the world. Ezekiel 6:12. Again, he who is far off will die of the pestilence. He who is near will fall by the sword. He who remains and is besieged will die by the famine. Thus I will accomplish my wrath on him. He describes everything that happened with Jerusalem in 70 AD. He who is near will fall by the sword. He who remains and is besieged will die by the famine. Those that did not follow Yeshua's instructions, that when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, walk. Don't run. Don't turn back to your house. Walk. Because see, the thing about it is, if you got all this stuff, you got the backpacks and you're a prepper and you got everything ready to go, that tells everybody what's going on and what you're doing. And that's more likely to get you stopped and searched, whatever, than anything else would. You just walk away and let Yahweh take care of it. Because he says he will. Yeah. Verse 13, you will know that I am Yahweh. When their slain men are among their idols, around their altars, on every high hill, on all the tops of the mountains, under every green tree, and under every thick oak, the places where they offered pleasant aroma to all their idols. Neil puts in here, as is threatened. Goes back to Ezekiel 6:5. By which it will appear that the idols whom they worship could not save them, since they should fall just by them, and round about the altars on which they sacrificed unto them, which idols were placed, and the altars for their worship built. Same as in Ezekiel 6:14, I will stretch out my hand on them, and make the land desolate and waste, from the wilderness toward Diblah, throughout all their habitations. Then will they know that I am Yahweh. Chapter 7.
Dennis?
Yes.
Even if it does say that the Israelites would, or Judah would know that I am Yahweh that brings coming. Even by the end of this story here, by the time it's all said and done, fulfilled, even the Babylonians knew it was Yahweh that turned, gave Judah over in the hand. And they didn't learn the same lesson from Assyria, from what happened to the northern tribes. Even Shalman, even the Assyrians knew that it was Yahweh. Even they that turned Israel over to them.
Well, it's Yahweh makes it known. His prophets make it known what's going to happen.
I mean, even the Assyrians understood that. You think that alone would have taught these people something, but.
Well, you think about also the people that travel for business, whatever you want to call it, at that time. They were in and out of Israel. They saw things that were going on, and they would take it back and tell everybody else about what was going on. It was like with Rahab. They already knew what had happened across the Jordan and all the way back into Egypt, what had been done. So that's why they all fled into Jericho and hoping to be able to survive the siege or whatever's going to take place. He says, Chapter 7, verse 1. Moreover, Yahweh's word came to me, saying, You son of man, thus says the Adonai Yahweh to the land of Israel, an end. The end has come on the four corners of the land. The four sides, all the way around. Gil says the inhabitants of it, not the 10 tribes who were already carried captive because they were gone, but the 2 tribes of Judah and Benjamin, which remained in the land, and those that were with them who dwelt in the land. So, I mean, this is, in this time, what's going to happen. Because, as of such, one of the things I wasn't thinking about was the fact the northern 10 tribes have gone into captivity, but the house of Judah and Benjamin was still in the land. And so all of this is what you need to listen to. This is what's going to happen. These are the ones that are going to be affected. Now is the end to you in verse 3. And I will send my anger on you and will judge you according to your ways. I will bring on you all your abominations. Meaning you don't have clean hands either. That was one of the things that one of the commentaries talk about is how much what the northern 10 tribes did filtered in to the house of Judah and the southern 2 tribes and the Levites, because they were not, even though they saw the others go into captivity, they weren't really changing their ways either. Verse 4, my eye will not spare you, neither will I have pity, but I will bring your ways on you, and your abominations will be among you. Then you will know that I am Yahweh. You know, the Gil says here, though the punishment will be heavy and the lamentation will be great, he refers back to Ezekiel 5:11. You know, all of this, no matter what lamentation, crying, mourning, because of the dead, because of the affliction that's on them. Ezekiel 7:5. Thus says Adonai Yahweh, an evil, a unique evil. Behold, it comes. Verse 6. An end has come. The end has come. It awakes against you. Behold, it comes. The Syriac version is, behold, evil for evil comes. The evil of punishment for the evil of sin. You know, you just think about it, and it keeps repeating. And the end has come. The end has come. Putting forth the idea that this, I'm not kidding, guys. I'm not making a joke. Verse 7, your doom has come to you, inhabitant of the land. The time has come. The day is near. A day of tumult, and not of joyful shouting on the mountains. You think about it, even today, and all of the things that's going on in the world. Think about it with the pestilence. I'll put it that way. More than one type of pestilence. Now we're looking at all of the supply chain interruptions that are taking place. And as that happens, they're talking about now that by the 20th of June, the West Coast longshoremen's contract runs out. It's renegotiated every 6 years. June the 20th, that 6 years is up. And so they're now prophesying that they're going to go on strike because the money they're making is not enough to pay their bills because of the inflation that's going on in this country. And if they stop and refuse to unload the ships or to load it onto the trucks leaving the docks, it's going to lock down all the ports on the West Coast all at once. And you're talking about a supply chain problem, then you really got a supply chain problem. And so, you know, you look at all these things. I'm saying this because you got to think of it. We're not safe from these very prophecies. Because if we claim to be a followers of the Bible or the God of the Bible, then that's the same one that's talking about here, talking about Israel and what they did to him. And what are we doing to him or not doing? Are we turning away from him? Are we really putting our hearts into worshiping the Creator? He says here, verse 8 of Ezekiel 7, "Now I will shortly pour out my wrath on you and accomplish my anger against you, and will judge you according to your ways. I will bring on you all your abominations." Commentary Guild. It might be very well said to be shortly or near at hand that Yahweh would bring down his judgments upon this people, since it was sometime in the 6th year of King Jehoiakim captivity that this prophecy was delivered. And it was in the 9th year that Nebuchadnezzar came up against Jerusalem, so that it was but about 3 years before Elohim would begin to pour out his fury on them. You know, time frame. Doesn't happen tomorrow or today or just next week. He can wait sometimes up to 3 years as he prepares the ones that he's going to use to inflict that on you. And right now, it's like one of the commentaries was pointing out on the news this morning that China will now is actually becoming more of a threat to the United States than Russia, because China is now talking about invading the United States along with Russia. Russia will come in down through Canada, and the Chinese will come in by ship. And you say, well, won't everybody know this? They've got 900 commercial ships that they can put men and armaments on and ship them over as merchandise coming into the country. And at the right moment, instead of just waiting outside the port, they just roll in and unload. But I mean, it's talking about, and then the ones that they've been training down in Mexico, the ones that they've been training up in Canada, and the ones that have been trained in Mexico have been working with the cartels. So I mean, people are thinking, and this, you might think, well, this is some kind of conspiracy theory. No, this is the Chinese talking about it. They actually have a recording of these generals talking about the invasion that they're going to carry out. So I mean, you've got a lot of things going on in this world. Ezekiel 7:9, "My eye won't spare, neither will I have pity. I will punish you according to your ways. Your abomination will be among you. Then you will know that I, Yahweh, strike. Behold, behold, it comes. Your doom is gone out. The rod has blossomed. Pride has budded." Remember what Yahweh said in Ezekiel 7:3 back at the beginning of this chapter? "Now is the end on you, and I will send my anger on you, and will judge you according to your ways. I will bring on you all your abominations." Verse 11, "Violence has risen up into a rod of wickedness. None of them will remain, nor of their multitude, nor of their wealth. There will be nothing of value among them." The time has come, verse 12, "the day draws near. Don't let the buyer rejoice, nor the seller mourn, for wrath is on all its multitude." You realize that the housing market is in the process of collapsing? Literally collapsing. Because the interest rates have gone so high, people can't afford the monthly mortgage. And so they're now no longer adding new homes, new permits for new homes. And when it talked about, let's see that. The buyer rejoice. Wait a minute, I just bought this house and now the value of it has gone down, because housing prices are also going down. Because if you can't sell it, then the value drops. It talks about the seller mourn.
Supply and demand.
The ones that, you either have the ones that are happy because they sold it before they collapsed, or you're with the ones that haven't been able to sell it and are mourning the fact that they cannot get their money back out of it so they can do whatever else they were going to do. Gill says, now the time has come when the one who would have no occasion to rejoice, nor the other to mourn, not the buyer rejoice because being carried captive he cannot enjoy his possessions, nor the seller mourn because if he had not sold his house or field, he must have left it because he was taken captive. Yes, Curtis.
Actually, what you just read reminds me of Revelation 18,
Revelation 18.
1 through 8.
Go ahead and read it.
Revelation 18, verse 1. After all these things, I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having a great authority, and the earth was illuminated with his glory. And he cried out with a loud voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen. It is fallen, and for every foul spirit, and a cage for every unclean and hateful bird. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The kings have committed fornication with her, and the merchants, what you just say, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the abundance of her luxury. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, lest you receive her plagues. For her sins have reached to heaven, and Yahweh hath remembered all her iniquities. Render her just as she has rendered to you, and repay her double according to her work. And the cup which she has mixed double for her. And measure that she has glorified herself and lived luxuriously. In the same measure, give her torment and sorrow. For she says in her heart, Oh, I sit as a queen, and I'm not going to be a widow, and I will not see any sorrow. Therefore her plagues will come up her in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she will be utterly destroyed, burned with fire. For it is Yahweh Adonai who judges her.
Yep. Sudden destruction.
And she won't see it coming.
Ezekiel 7:13 goes on and says, For the seller won't return to that which is sold, although they are still alive. For the vision concerns the whole multitude of it. None will return. None will strengthen himself in the iniquity of his life. Think about it. When they did, when the second group went into captivity, that's Judah, they were to go into captivity 70 years. Well, if you're a 45-year-old man, you ain't coming back. Okay, if you're a 50 man or 25-year-old man, there's a good chance you're not coming back. If you're going to be gone for 70 years. Gill says, For the seller shall not return to that which is sold. In the year of Jubilee, which is what the law says, because he shall be in captivity. So in the year of Jubilee, that will happen during that 70 years, he would normally get that land back. But he's not going to get it because he's in captivity according to the law. And that law is found in Leviticus 25, verse 13. When a man had sold his possession, he returned to it again, if alive, in the year of Jubilee. Let it come sooner or later, within 30 or 20 or 10 years after the sale, be it as it will. Now the Babylonian captivity being 70 years, in that time there must be a Jubilee, and yet those that had sold their estates, being captives in another land, could not return to them. Ezekiel 7:14. They have blown the trumpet and have made already, but no one goes to the battle, for my wrath on all its multitude. Gill says, the intention of God was to destroy them all by one means or another, and therefore a heart was not given them to defend themselves or oppose the enemy. It's like one guy was pointing out that with this thing in Ukraine, with the United States sending all of its Javelin missiles, or majority of them, if the United States is attacked, they ain't going to have no weapons because they've already sent it over and it's been And the Russians are blowing up most of the trains as if they're bringing it into Ukraine. And so, it comes down to what will we have to fight with. And this is where one of them makes a comment about, well, without the Second Amendment, we would be kind of without something to fight with. But any major things, it's so interesting how you can look at all of this stuff and see the things that are happening and can happen. Let's see here. Verse 15. The sword is outside, and the pestilence and the famine within. He who is in the field will die by the sword. Meaning he's outside, exposed when the invaders come. He who is in the city will be devoured by famine and pestilence, because you're locked in. You're in siege. You can't renew or replenish. And the way we're going, with the supply chain breakage that can happen, grocery stores run out of food, all these people trapped in the city, what are they going to do? That's the things that you run into. Yahweh has his ways of working things to bring about the destruction of those that turn their heart away from him. Gill says, within the city so much so that such who thought themselves safe in their own houses died by those judgments. Remember those that hadn't listened to Yeshua and said when the armies surround Jerusalem, had not blindly gone into Jerusalem because I got to be there for Passover, but seeing the troops, turned around and walked north and east into northern Jordan, what is Jordan today, which was Pella. Those survived. Those that didn't pay attention, didn't look, didn't listen, didn't understand what was happening, they died in the city. Verse 16, but those of those who escape, they will escape and be in the mountains like doves of the valleys, all of them moaning, everyone in his iniquity. Gill says here, should lament their fate, not in loud cries. You don't want to be too loud, lest they should be heard by the enemy and taken. But in secret sighs and in mournful tone, acknowledging to God and to one another their sins. They now became sensible of, in other words, they now realize the outcome of those sins, which brought these calamities upon them. So God's people, the remnant according to the election of grace, who escaped the general ruin, sin, has brought on mankind, or for the most part, upon the mountain, in an afflicted and persecuted state. Well, yeah, you're up on the mountain, you escaped. But you're out there where you don't have anything. You have no housing. You have no food. Very little chance of water. Deuteronomy 14:1 also states, you are the children of Yahweh your Elohim. You shall not, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I moved a sheet too early. Going back to verse 17 of Ezekiel 7, all hands will be feeble and all knees will be weak as water. Gill says, all hands shall be feeble, no strength in them, to lay hold on weapons of war to defend themselves or fight the enemy. No heart nor courage in them to go forth and meet him, and even afraid to lift up their voice in mourning, lest they should be heard and pursued and taken. And all knees shall be weak as water, tremble and beat one against another for fear of the enemy, or shall flow with water. Well, when it says a flow of water, means you release your bladder. It says the Targum, either with sweat or urine, which are sometimes both caused by fear. Verse 18, they will also clothe themselves with sackcloth, and horror will cover them. Shame will be on their all faces, and baldness on all of their heads. Okay? In Deuteronomy 14:1, you are children of Yahweh, your Elohim. You shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead. So that's why, they said baldness on their heads while they mourn for the dead. Ezekiel 7:19. They will cast, this is one, when I was in Worldwide, this is one of the biggest ones. They would play up. They will cast their silver in the streets, and their gold will be as an unclean thing. Their silver and their gold won't be able to deliver them in the day of Yahweh's wrath. It won't. You can have all the gold and silver you want in the world. It's not going to deliver you, because at that point, what will it buy? Who will it buy? They won't satisfy their souls or fill their bellies, because it has been the stumbling block of their iniquity. Gil says, they shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed, as being of no use unto them to preserve them from famine and pestilence. You know, you can't eat gold. You can't eat silver. And as being at a hindrance to them in their flight from the enemy. You ever picked up, say, 100 ounces of gold? That's a heavy block to be carried around. Even if you have 100 1 ounce coins of gold, that is a lot to carry around with you constantly. And if you have a very large treasury as such, it's even more so, trying to move it from place to place. Another writer, Kimchi, observes that this may be interpreted of their idols of gold and silver, which shall now be had in contempt by them and cast away, when they shall find they cannot save them from the ruin. You know, that cast of, 10 or 15, 20, 30 pound gold idol you have. What use of it if nobody wants it? If it won't save you anything, it won't buy you anything. He makes a referral to Isaiah chapter 2, verse 20. Isaiah 2:20. In that day men shall cast away their idols of silver and their idols of gold, which have been made for themselves to worship, to the moles and to the bats. Treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteous. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't tell you where it went. Proverbs 10:2. Treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness delivers from death. So you can have the gold and die, or you can be righteous and live. Riches, Proverbs 11:4. Riches don't profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. And Revelation 6:15. The kings of the earth, the princes, the commanding officers, the rich, the strong, and every slave and free person hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains. The gold and silver couldn't protect them. Nothing could protect them from Yahweh's wrath. Revelations, I stopped before. Verse 16 of Revelation 6. They told the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand? Matthew 25:33. Matthew 25:33. This is Yeshua speaking. He will set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then the king will tell those on his right hand, the sheep, come, blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. So which one do you want to be, goat or sheep? Going back to Ezekiel 7:20. As for the beauty of his ornament, he set it in majesty. But they made the images of their abominations and their detestable things therein. Therefore I have made it to them as an unclean thing. Jeremiah 7 verse 30. Jeremiah 7 verse 30. For the children of Judah have done that which is evil in my sight, says Yahweh. They have set their abominations in the house which is called by my name to defile it. I mean, literally. Not only do you go to an idol, you now take the idol and replace Yahweh with that idol. Bob on one of the trips to Israel, they found a temple to Yahweh, and there was a place for Yahweh and a place for Yahweh's Asherah.
Abdot is where that was.
At Abdot.
Yeah, just west of the.
So there was
I'm trying to think of it.
to Yahweh and into Asherah.
It's the
You know?
same place.
In the same place where they worship. Verse 31 of Jeremiah 7, they have built the high places of Tophet, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom. That's that valley that's down on the south end of the city of David. To burn their sons and their daughters in the fire, which I didn't command, nor did it come into my mind. Therefore, behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that I will no more be called Tophet, or the valley of the son of Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter, where they will bury in Tophet until there is no place to bury. That's a major slaughter. It's like up in the valley of, I get that word away from me. Up in the north part, the huge valley where that final battle is going to take place. Yeah, Megiddo.
Megiddo Valley, that's correct.
And it talks about there that the slaughter will be so great, the blood will come up to the bridle on the horses. And that is a lot of dead people. That is a lot of blood. I've been to in that valley and seen it. It's a very large valley. So when it talks about here of them burying, in verse 33 of Jeremiah 7, the dead bodies of those people will be food for the birds of the sky and for the animals of the earth. No one will frighten away, meaning after they finish doing all this burying, there's still bodies to be buried. Then I will cause to cease from the cities of Judah and from the streets of Jerusalem the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, for the land will become a waste. Ezekiel 7:21. I will give it into the hands of strangers for prey, and to the wicked of the earth for plunder, and they will profane it. Jeremiah 52, verse 17. Jeremiah 52, verse 17. The Chaldeans broke the pillars of brass that were in Yahweh's house, and the bases and the bronze sea that were in Yahweh's house in pieces, and carried all of their brass to Babylon. They also took away the pots, the shovels, the snuffers, the basin, the spoons, and all the vessels of brass with which they ministered. All of it was made of brass, which was very valuable then. Verse 19, the captain of the guard took away the cups, the fire pans, the basins, the pots, the lampstands, the spoons, and the bowls, that which was of gold in gold, and that which was silver in silver. They took the two pillars, the one sea and the 12 bronze bowls that were under the bases, which King Solomon had made for Yahweh's house. The brass of all these vessels was without weight, meaning it was so much they don't even know how much it was. Ezekiel 7:22. I will turn my face from them, and they will profane my secret place. Robbers will enter into it and profane it. Gil's comment, and they shall pollute my secret place, the Holy of Holies, by going into it, which none but the high priest might do, and he but once a year. Ezekiel 7:23, make chains, for the land is full of bloody crimes, and the city is full of violence. Listen to all of the violence reports you get today of the major cities here in this country. Of the people, how many people die, I'm trying to remember what was the number. It was a large number that died over the Memorial Day weekend and all. And not all of it was guns. People can be very inventive when they want to. They can do it by poison. They can do it by knife. They can do it by beating you with this, beating you with that, beating you with their own fist, or just strangling you with their own hands. Takes longer, but it can be done. Verse 24, therefore I will bring the worst of the nations, and they will possess their houses. I will also make the pride of the strong to cease. Their holy places will be profaned. Gil says, and they shall possess their houses, which they have built, and thought to have lived and died in, and left them to their children for an inheritance. But the Chaldeans, and not their children, became their heirs. and inherited their houses and lands. Verse 25, he says, destruction comes. They will seek peace, and there will be none. Gil says, destruction comes upon the temple, upon the city, upon the nation, and upon the people. The king of Babylon, the destroyer of the Gentiles, and now the Jews being on his way. Jeremiah 4:6. Jeremiah 4:6. Set up a standard toward Zion. Flee for safety. Don't wait, for I will bring evil from the north and a great destruction. A lion has come up from his thicket, and a destroyer of nations. He is on his way. He has gone out from his place to make your land desolate, that your cities be laid waste without inhabitant. For this, clothe yourself with sackcloth, lament and wail, for the fierce anger of Yahweh hasn't turned back from us. Jeremiah 4:9. It will happen at that day, says Yahweh, that the heart of the king will perish, along with the heart of the princes. The priest will be astonished, and the prophets will wonder. Then I said, Adonai Yahweh, surely you have greatly deceived this people in Jerusalem, saying, you will have peace, whereas the sword reaches to the heart. Ezekiel 7:26. Mischief will come on mischief, and rumor will be on rumor. They will seek a vision of the prophet, but the law will perish from the priest, and counsel from the elders. Gil says, rumor shall be upon rumor, that the Chaldean army is in such a place, and then that it is in another place, still nearer, and then that it is but a few miles off, and will be here immediately. Rumors of wars, as well as wars themselves, are very distressing. You just look at today, at how many battles, how many wars are actually going on? Yes, Bob?
I'm not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Going on. You look at all that's going on out there, and the people that are dying. How many have died in Ukraine since this war started?
We really don't know.
Yep. And then you have all these other little wars that are scattered across the world. Everything that goes on. You just look at how destructive mankind can be to itself. Really, what is going to be the great outcome of this Ukraine war? Other than the billions, trillions of dollars spent on ammunition and war materials, to the point now that there's a black market where they're selling them on eBay and these other countries, all the weapons that they're capturing, and all that's going down. They found out that ships is not as great as biggest thing in the world to have anymore. And it's like one guy said, the Chinese were asked, what do you consider aircraft carriers? He said, targets. Because you think about it, all it takes is one missile. Just like the Moscow, which is a Russian, that was 60 miles off the coast of Ukraine. And it was hit by 2 rockets. 2 missiles from land, 60 miles away. Everything is long range nowadays. He goes on here, Gil goes back to Matthew 24, verse 6, 7, and 8. You will hear wars, rumors of wars. See that you aren't troubled, for all this must happen, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, and plagues, and earthquakes in various places. But all these things are the beginning of the birth pains, of the end, leading up to the wrath of God. Verse 27 of Ezekiel 7, the king will mourn, and the prince will be clothed with desolation. The hands of the people of the land will be troubled. I will do to them after their way, and according to their own judgments I will judge them. Then they will know that I am Yahweh. Gil says that the king shall mourn, and the prince shall be clothed with desolation, meaning one of the same person. Zedekiah did not being able to save himself and his people, and who, falling into the hands of the king of Babylon, his children were slain before him. Then his own eyes put out, and he bound and chained and carried away into Babylon. Jeremiah 39, verse 6. This is a description of what went on. Jeremiah 39, 6. Then the king of Babylon killed Zedekiah's sons in Riblah before his eyes. The king of Babylon also killed all the nobles of Judah. Moreover, he put out Zedekiah's eyes and bound him in fetters to carry him to Babylon. The Chaldeans burned the king's house and the houses of the people with fire and broke down the walls of Jerusalem. Then Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive into Babylon the residue of the people who remained in the city. The deserters also who fell away to him, the ones that deserted to him, they went to Babylon too. And the residue of the people who remained. Verse 10 of Jeremiah 39. But Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, left of the poor of the people who had nothing in the land of Judah, and gave them vineyards and fields at the same time. That was what Jeremiah was left behind. As Yahweh delivered Jeremiah from Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, commanded Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, concerning Jeremiah, saying, see, who's righteous in this case? Look what happened to all those that were unrighteous. Now here's something, one person said to him, take him and take care of him. Do him no harm, but do to him even as he tells you. You accept his authority. So Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, sent with Nebuchadnezzar, Rabsaris, Nergal-Sharezer, Rabmag, well, his names, and all the chief officers of the king of Babylon. They sent and took Jeremiah out of the court of the guard, that's where he was in the pit, and committed him to Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, that he should carry him home. So he lived among the people that were left after this particular time period. I'm going to end it there. I will return in 4 weeks on the second Sabbath on July the 9th at 3 p.m. Hallelujah, praise Yahweh. Hallelujah, Yeshua, praise